Hi, my name is Dr. Gemma Green, and I am hosting a panel discussion today about why it's better to be a camel rather than a unicorn. Today, we'll be having a conversation on modern entrepreneurship, and we're doing that in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, where the world feels a bit like it's in a prolonged state of turmoil, and the challenges for business owners and leaders have become heightened now more than ever. The CEO and founder of Thrive Global, Ariana Huffington, has aptly labelled the current state as a generic atmosphere of stress. And today's session with our esteemed panellists will explore why, in the face of uncertainty and for most entrepreneurs outside of Silicon Valley, camel startups are better set up for success than the often sought after unicorn. Firstly, welcome to our guest speakers, Dr. Bill Tai, a venture capitalist, kite surfing fanatic, innovator and in residence and adjunct professor at Curtin University. Bill joins us from his home base in San Francisco today. Hi, Bill, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gemma. It's always a pleasure to do things with Curtin University. I've had a wonderful number of years coming back and forth from California to Perth and enjoy my interactions with everybody here. So thank you again.
Great to have you here, Bill. We're also joined today with Curtin alumni and Forbes 30 Under 30 member Marco Feelish, who joins us from Berlin, where he is co-founder of Buckle and Seam. Guten Tag, Marco.
Hey there. Thanks for having me, guys.
Kicking off with our first question. In the business and financial world, a unicorn refers to a startup company with a value of over $1 billion. What is perhaps less heard of is the notion of a camel startup. Bill, could you give us an explanation of exactly what a camel startup is and how it compares to the elusive unicorn?
Well, I guess the camel is an incredibly resilient animal that's able to survive long periods without a lot of food or water. And they live in very harsh environments and somehow seem to outlast all the other animals. And of course, the unicorn, it's real sometimes in bullish markets where you have these bursts of financing and a lot of liquidity that value companies at very exuberant levels, and we're in one of those right now. But for most of the financial cycle, building companies is hard work, and the valuations are sometimes not that extreme. So I think, the unicorns, they come, they go. Fortunately, they're here right now, but I think camels, they're around all the time.
Could you share with us some examples of camel startups in the global space that have been able to thrive through various crisis scenarios?
I'll give you two examples that did become unicorns later, but it took a while, right? So obviously Zoom and Canva, both of those were companies that were very, very hard to raise money for. Everybody's probably heard the Canva story, and Melanie Perkins did a blog post. I cannot remember how many people turned her down. I don't know if it was 50 or 80, but it was somewhere in that neighborhood before money started to flow. It was really, really difficult. Same with Zoom. Eric Yuan, who founded Zoom, will tell you that everybody he sent the deck to that opened the deck turned him down. And it was a few people like me that knew him that I didn't even open the deck, and I said yes. And I think because the video conferencing space was already so crowded with companies like Skype and WebEx and GoToMeeting, a lot of the traditional venture capitalists, their reaction to Eric with a pitch around a new video conferencing system was, well, why do you need one? Skype, everybody uses Skype. Everybody uses GoToMeeting. Everybody uses WebEx. Why would you even start something in this space? So I think companies like Canva and Zoom, because they got a lot of rejections early, they had to focus on low burn and getting revenue, and had to try as best they could to cover their own burn rate. So in a way, they were camels for years. Zoom, they didn't get their first really big institutional funding until 5 years after I seeded it. 5 years. It was a long time living on that first seed round. It was sort of, a couple years and then another seed. And then it really took a long time to get institutional traction. And I think that was true of Canva also. But when they finally broke through and started to grow really fast because they had honed their product model and had good margins and were profitable, Then the big name VCs came in and boosted it to unicorn status. But they lived as camels for years before they got to that point.
Thanks for that. I'll open this next question up to the panel. We often associate entrepreneurs to be risk takers. People like Jeff Bezos famously started Amazon out of his garage after abandoning a lucrative career in financial services. That sort of big, gutsy moves are what are often portrayed as key to startup glory stories. Do you think there's a space for entrepreneurs who prefer a steadier path and maybe a little, dare I say, be more risk averse?
It's funny that you describe entrepreneurs as risk takers because I actually think of them as risk reducers. And sure, when you think about that Amazon story and you see Amazon in all its glory now and the kinds of things that Jeff Bezos undertakes, whether it's, space, rocketry or what have you, it looks glamorous and it looks like, very risky business, but think about that picture that probably many of you have seen of him starting Amazon with the word Amazon spray painted on a piece of cardboard hung on the wall, sitting at his desk by himself in front of a gigantic world. And if you think about what he was doing, he took a lot of baby steps, sequential little steps, and he was really just reducing risk all the way, right? So he didn't start with what he has now. He started by selling one item, a book, out of his, I don't know if it was a garage or what, it looked like a garage, but it wasn't a big check to buy a big building and hire a lot of people and get a burn rate up. I mean, that's risk, I think. But if you're sitting in your garage selling books over the phone, through the internet, hey, I think entrepreneurship is really made for people that are cognizant of the speed bumps that they're going to face and are able to deal with those one at a time.
So I agree to Bill to some extent. I personally think there's risk aversity in terms of financial risk and risk aversity in terms of social gestures or social communities. Make an example. I personally went to Pakistan when I was 22. I abandoned all my friends in Australia, in a sense, and my family in Germany, because I went to a place where none of them had ever been, and still, yet to the date, none of them came to visit when I was living there, in a sense. So taking a risk to going out of your home turf is something in social culture texture, I think, is risk. But then on the side, which is in cultural things, always more important by society sometimes, unfortunately, is financial. And job offers, yes, I wouldn't call them in terms of risk. For example, for me, I had a job offer. I went to work for someone else before I started my own business. And now, a couple of years down the line, I am taking risks, but I'm not taking small risks in a sense. I have almost 100 people working with me, luckily. There come financial risks in terms of financial debt, as well as other liabilities as a founder or managing director. So I think in future, let's talk in 10 years, I hope I can sign that I go in small steps. Personally, for me now, still in the 20s, it feels like big risk and potential big outcome, but going step by step is for sure the way to go.
And a follow-up question also, in your opinion, what are some of the other key skills that entrepreneurs and also those in the making need in order to succeed, particularly in times of uncertainty? Bill, let's start with you.
Whether it's a volatile environment or not, the skill sets are the same. It's leadership, which includes the ability to communicate your vision and get people on board and with you for the journey, whether it's your financing crew or it's your employee crew or your customers. People have to believe in where you're going to take them to step on that train with you when you're a startup and you are not yet really a fully fledged business.
And Marco, I'm keen to get your views on this topic as well.
Best example for us is COVID-19. I was in New York in our office there when it kind of first broke out, when it was Chinese New Year's and there was a lot of traction in New York as well as Europe. Me and my co-founder had to decide what to do because we have over 80 people working in our production facility in Pakistan. We need to make sure that an outbreak is prevented in our facility. Plus, we need to make sure that we have a steady income stream. Our business needs to kind of strive during that phase. And we have a kind of responsibility, not only for our customers, but as well for our employees. And that helped us, kind of that note in the head is like, we have the freedom now to decide beforehand. We have the freedom to make a decision which is not short term. We could have easily fired everyone and saved money. But for us, it was like, we want to come back even better than before the crisis. Hence, we kept everyone on the payroll. We made severe cuts on external costs, but kept the team together and thought long term in a sense. And that's for us a thing which someone should have told me, I don't know, 5 years ago. Think long term, not short term, and share your knowledge with other people. I never have been on so many calls with other entrepreneurs than this March till April, because everyone was willing to open their books. Everyone was open to share challenges and share, even between competitors, how they solved it for the greater good of health. And I think that's an amazing sign and something every entrepreneur should aim for knowledge exchange in an open manner.
Yeah, cool. So Marco, as co-founder of your own company, what areas did you and your team have to focus on to grow the resiliency of your business?
In our team, we have a lot of different individuals. At first, when I started off, I thought that there needs to be copies of myself who work in my team. But figured out later, thanks to literature as well, that a team is only great if it consists of diversity in terms of gender, interests, but as well competencies. And for us, the best thing kind of to learn is to share in the team. For example, we have a monthly experience share where every employee in our Berlin head office shares his wins and his losses in the last month and how he or she coped with them. And this kind of creates an atmosphere where everyone is willing to kind of openly communicate, hey, I made a mistake, but this is what I learned from it. And you don't need to make that mistake again. Really important for me to kind of show people who come from a secure environment, who have not been risk seeking in a sense for a couple of years because they are working for us or with us, that they need to change or are even willing to adapt. And then on the other hand, it's straight communication. Since day one, we've been open about profit and loss. And that helped us during COVID because we openly shared with the team, hey guys, this is at the bottom line. This is the red number. We're making a loss. How can everyone make actions to change it? And that's easy for a small company having less than 100 employees. Obviously gets more important once these figures get significantly higher. But that's for me ultimately the right way to go, to be open about communication.
Marco, I've got a follow-up question for you. I did my PhD at Curtin and it really set me up for success as an entrepreneur in understanding the changing business landscape and also the opportunities that are coming in electricity markets as a result of shifting from centralised energy to distributed electricity. I was curious to understand how you think that your studies at Curtin helped set you up for success as an entrepreneur. And what words of advice would you have for future entrepreneurs in taking the leap to starting up their own businesses?
Interesting question, because I would personally not say that we're successful. That's for others to determine. But I can say that I'm blessed enough to have had the right start. And the right start for me was when I went from my home base, Germany, to Australia, to Curtin, to kind of broaden my horizon, to get cultural experience and to actually work on teams, small teams, because that has shaped my leadership style now, that I encourage that teamwork is there and that diversity is there, that you can challenge things. For me, that was the kind of starting point. And then really that big-hearted kind of mentality. The values at Curtin are always first. And this is how we put our company together, that the values are first, then you need your results, because the results ultimately come if the values are right. And that was something which wasn't just on a wall somewhere on a presentation, that was really lived by all lecturers or tutors, as well as all kind of fellow students I had over there.
Super. So when we think of where the most successful startups have their roots, we automatically think of Silicon Valley and the likes of Bill. So how do you think Perth weighs in against these more established ecosystems? And can the world's most isolated city really truly be a new frontier for entrepreneurs?
It already has been. It's happening as we speak. I mean, everyone knows, of course, the story of Canva and Melanie Perkins and you, Gemma, with Power Ledger. You're making a dent in your universe too. I think we're at a point now where technology, it's so pervasive, and it comes over the phone line through the cloud, that you can really start a company anywhere. Your ability to reach customers through things like Zoom, transact with them over things like the internet. The world is relatively seamless to some extent for the developed world, where a lot of the financial wherewithal is to find funding and to drive customer transactions. So it's becoming increasingly possible to start companies from anywhere, and now also to build them from anywhere.
Thanks for your comments, Bill. I moved back to Perth after spending 11 years in London. I've been back 7 years, and I was a bit apprehensive coming home and thinking that my exciting career days in London were over. But really the opposite has been true. It's been so refreshing to see so many exciting things happening in the startup space, and companies here that are really selling their technology to the world. Perth technology is being sold into Silicon Valley, which is quite remarkable. So like you, I feel like it is already happening, and I'm super excited and super proud that these kind of innovations can be born here and also grow here. So we've talked a lot about how camels may outlast the unicorn, but I'm curious to know your thoughts whether you think that camels can be the new winning model for startups, and are camels in fact the new unicorn? Bill?
I guess there are elements of a camel that, or the way the camel lives its life, that make it durable. Of course, we don't really know what the unicorn animal feeds on, or what gives it sustenance. But a lot of the unicorn valuations, again, happen in bubbly financial markets, and you see companies that basically they live by raising money. And if that tap ever runs dry, they could be in big trouble. So I think companies that are designed, built, engineered to not just require outside financing all the time to survive, they're going to be more durable. And some of the better companies that also achieve unicorn status are built that way. Whether it's Zoom, that was profitable when it went public, or Canva, which has been profitable for a couple of years. When those companies ultimately do list their shares on an exchange, if they choose to, they carry much higher valuations. A company like Zoom is worth far more than Uber, that everybody knows has been a revenue machine but loses money very, very consistently. So I think I'd rather be the camel first, to set a good culture, drive really a good business that's sustainable on its own, and then maybe achieve unicorn status.
That draws us to the conclusion of our panel. I just wanted to say thank you, Marco, and thank you, Bill, for your time today.
Thank you.
And to the audience, we hope that you enjoyed this conversation and will join us for future dialogues that we're having on the topic of entrepreneurship and innovation. Thank you.